This manifesto, all set out here today in this manifesto, we have 3 new commitments to make to the working people of Britain. Now, part of having a good life is having a home of your own. It's not about assets and appreciating values. It's about someone standing there with the keys in their hand thinking this place is mine. That's why Conservatives have committed to building a property-owning democracy for generations. And today I can tell you what this generation of Conservatives is going to do about it. As the most expensive council properties fall vacant, we're going to require councils to sell them off. And we'll replace them with new affordable housing in the same area. That will save billions of pounds a year to reinvest in housing to make sure more people get a home of their own. And we'll use the money that we save to do 2 things. First, we will create a £1 billion brownfield regeneration fund. This will be money for councils to get brownfield land ready to build on, to get the diggers in the ground and make way for 400,000 new homes. And second, we're going to use that money to radically expand one of the Conservative Party's landmark ideas, the right to buy your council house. Now, that right is currently denied to most of the people who live in housing association properties. So I can tell you, the next Conservative government will extend the right to buy to all housing association tenants in our country. So, let's be clear about what this means. That is 1.3 million extra families, a whole generation given the security of a home of their own. So let the message ring out from this generation of Conservatives. You've worked hard, you've saved. That home you live in, it's yours to buy, yours to own. The dream of a property-owning democracy is alive, and we will help you fulfill it. Now, a good life should mean that raising your family, it feels like an incredible and joyful, and yes, sometimes completely exhausting journey, but it shouldn't be a permanent struggle with the bills. And that's why our second commitment to working people is on childcare. For families with young children, this is not one issue amongst many, it is the issue they rightly care about. And they're asking, how can we make this work? How can we afford it? It shouldn't have to be this way. That's why we're making childcare tax-free. It's why we've already funded 15 hours of free universal childcare a week for families with 3- and 4-year-olds. And I can tell you today, we are going further, a lot further. Because of the changes that we've made to curb pension relief for the highest earners, we can afford to make the following commitment. We are going to take that free childcare, and for working families, we will double it. With a Conservative government, you will get 30 hours of free childcare a week, equivalent to £5,000 a year. So we say to the working parents of 3- and 4-year-olds, £5,000 of savings for you, only with 5 more years of Conservatives in government. That's for working people in our country. It's hard having a good life without a good job. So commitment number 3 to working people. We are going to make sure that work really pays in our country. Not just now, but always. We've already made that major increase in the personal allowance, so you can now earn £10,600 without paying any income tax at all. By 2020, we'll have raised that further to £12,500, making sure no one on the minimum wage who works 30 hours a week pays any income tax on their wages. But today, I can tell you, we are going to go one step further. We are going to legislate that as the minimum wage rises, the basic tax-free allowance is automatically uprated too. You heard that right. If Conservatives are in government, we will change the law so that no one earning the minimum wage will pay income tax. Yes, the tax-free minimum wage under the Conservatives. Now, this will be a landmark change, but it has echoes of an earlier one. Back in 1977, two backbenchers secured the landmark Rooker-Wise amendment in the budget. Its purpose was to link the personal tax allowance to inflation so that the lowest earners weren't overtaxed or taxed by stealth. And what we're announcing today, if you like, is the modern, compassionate, conservative version of that change. It means we can proudly say that this is the party of working people. For millions of workers, not just the party of low income tax, but us, the party of no income tax. So this is what we offer: strong leadership, a clear economic plan, a brighter, more secure future. And all of it rooted in who we are as Conservatives. Conservatism isn't some high and mighty abstract theory. It's a set of down-to-earth values, the expression of what is in the hearts of the majority of people in our country. If you want to know who I'm in it for, I'm in it for the people who live within the rules, who do the right thing, who set the alarm early in the morning, do the school run, clock in at work, whose good deeds and good humour are what makes British communities strong. People whose patriotism may be quiet, but whose love for this country is deep and great. And I share it. I am, above all, a patriot. I love my country with all my heart. And that is why, 5 years ago, almost to the day, I stood on a stage, quite like this one, asking you to give me and this party 5 years to save our country from ruin. And it's why I stand on this stage and ask you for 5 more to finish the job. With 5 more years, we can turn the good news in our economy into a good life for you and your family. With 5 more years, we can have more people hearing that they've got a job, more people standing in their new home, or watching their children walk into a brilliant school, or seeing their daughter start an apprenticeship, or knowing real dignity in retirement. Security at every stage of your life. And my message to Britain is this: we have come this far together. Let's not waste the past 5 years. Now is not a time to put it all at risk. It's the time we build on the progress we've made. We offer a good life for those willing to try because we're the party of working people. So if you want a more secure Britain, if you want a brighter future for you, for your family, then together, let us not go back to square one. Let us finish what we've begun. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, please. Thank you very much indeed. Now, we've got some time for questions. I think there'll be quite a few hands in the air from the media, so we're going to do one question each, but I'll try and get round you if I can. I've got you. Let's start with Nick Watt from The Guardian.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Your repeated mention of the good life obviously means we'll be seeing plenty of Penelope Keith and Felicity Kendall on our television sets this evening. Can I just ask you, mentioning the good life, is this a return to the sunny days of 2005 and 2010 after what many people have said has been a bit of a negative campaign? And can I just ask you, do you and Samantha Cameron, do you see yourselves as the Tom and Barbara of Britain or the Jerry and Margot?
I will, thank you very much, Nick. I'll leave that for Samantha to tell me privately later. Look, what I would say is that the greatest sunshine there can possibly be is for more people to find work, for more people to have more of their own money to spend as they choose, for more people to be able to own their own home, for more people to have that dignity and security in retirement. That's what the last 5 years have all been about. Of course, we've had to deal with the numbers and the balance sheets and the books and the deficits and the rest of it, and that work continues, but it's all for a purpose. And the purpose is to help people achieve their dreams and ambitions and aspirations. That's what it's about, and that's never changed. And that's what this election is about. Do we go forward with a plan that's working, or do we go back to square one and put it all at risk? Let's have James Mates from ITV.
Prime Minister, the Labour Party now call themselves the party of financial responsibility. You call yourselves the party of the working people. Whatever the politics of trying to fight on each other's turf in this way, is anyone going to believe either of you?
Well, there's a very big difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, which is for the last 5 years, we've been cutting taxes for working people. We've been helping working people back into jobs. We've been helping working people to buy their own home. We've been building schools like this so working people can get good school places for their children. Yet the Labour Party have spent the last 5 years attacking each and every decision that we've had to make to turn the country around. And that's why the deathbed conversion is so totally unconvincing in every single way. Let's have Tom Newton-Dunn from The Sun.
Prime Minister, you say security is the one most important word for you. Yet you quite clearly in this manifesto do not commit to meeting the NATO target of 2% of GDP on defence. You say you are meeting it, but there is no future commitment. If it's too expensive for you, why don't you just be honest and say so now?
Well, what we're saying, Tom, very clearly, is that we make a series of commitments on defence. First of all, to a full replacement for Trident, the ultimate insurance policy for Britain. Second of all, we say that we will not have further reductions in the size of our regular armed forces. And third, and I think most crucially, because our armed forces and those wanting to join want to know about what will be available, the equipment budget of £160 billion over the next decade is guaranteed with an inflation-busting increase in that capacity. That's very, very important. As for the overall defence spending level, we'll make that decision in the autumn after a defence and security review and alongside the other choices that we have to make. But that's a big contrast, that commitment to the £160 billion, with absolute silence from Labour on that, and indeed absolute silence on whether they would undermine Britain's nuclear deterrent. And you can see what's happening in this election campaign, which is that Labour have written a very thin manifesto with very little detail, and the SNP are now going to produce, I suspect, a rather more detailed list, which they will then try to enforce onto an Ed Miliband government. And here's the point about this election. Anyone who wants to stop that happening, if you want to stop the horror of a Miliband government backed by the Scottish National Party, it's no good voting Liberal Democrat. They could help make it happen. It's no good voting Green. It's no good voting UKIP. You have to vote for the Conservative Party as the only party that can secure a majority government to keep Britain on the right track. Let's have James Landale from the BBC.
James Landale, BBC. Prime Minister, many voters see the Conservatives as the party of the rich. 3 weeks from an election, is it not a bit too late to start claiming you're the party of working people?
Well, we have a track record for the whole of this Parliament, and a track record based on a plan which is about turning our country round, getting our country back to work, and making sure that if you put in, you got out, a country that rewards work. So we haven't suddenly started cutting taxes for working people. We did it right back in the early budgets and autumn statements. We haven't suddenly started wanting people to own their own home. We've been pioneering the right to buy and help to buy policies to get more people to own their own home. We haven't suddenly invented the idea of good school places for children. We've been building schools like this and many others, including the 500 free schools around our country, so that they're there for people to have for their children. So, you know, there's a strong track record, and that's a huge comparison with Labour, who seems suddenly, after 5 years of literally attacking every single save